Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd.
And today we have back again in studio, but not really in studio, but in my apartment, but I'm at Shepherd's apartment, Rowsdower. Say hi, Rowsdower.
Hello.
It's like a Lifetime movie, but with dudes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait. No. Shit. Start the discussion. I just made it weird.
So we might be a little giddy because we have very exciting news that probably everyone listening knows about. That Star Citizen, a new simulator, PC, space future sim. I'm butchering the way I'm saying this right now.
The game is being developed in space.
No. It's about space.
It's about space.
It's sci-fi.
It's okay.
It's a sci-fi space simulator game. That's PC game. Okay, Chris Roberts, the guy who made Wing Commander, who kind of, was one of these huge games when it came to the sci-fi sim, franchises. If you haven't played Wing Commander, go look at screenshots and then decide if you want to do this to yourself. But at the time, they were amazing. Okay? Along with that, X-Wing, which we're all familiar with. TIE Fighter, which we're all familiar with. X-Wing Alliance, which me and Rowsdower are very familiar with. And the Wing Commander series, which I don't know if Shepherd ever played.
Nope.
But I played it a lot. My brother played it a ton. I always remember going to bed watching him play Wing Commander. I remember Rowsdower had the set on his desk all the time. What was it? Heart of the Kilrathi or something like that? Wing Commander 4?
It was like a 6-disc box set with all the games in them.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So I was very excited to see that he's developing a multiplayer and single-player aspect of this flight sim, this space sim. And Rowsdower was telling me the other day how excited he was, and that the single-player had to have that, great storyline that really wanted to keep you playing, like X-Wing Alliance did, because that was the last real X-Wing game that ever got made. And they got me thinking how much I can't really get into single players recently, and I hope something like this really pushes me back into that arena, because when I sit down on my computer, I'm really more likely to play like PlanetSide 2 or StarCraft or some other multiplayer game or Natural Selection 2. I'd rather play a multiplayer game because for some reason I can't get into single players recently. And I don't know if that has to do with the consoleization thing, because I did kind of fall away from them about 8 years ago. But the last game I really, really got into, it was BioShock, that I loved. That I every day, I go to work, I'm thinking about BioShock.
The first BioShock.
Yes, the first BioShock. But it's a little nostalgic for me because I was such a big fan of System Shock 2. So, I don't know. But you say you have the same problem.
Currently, yes, I do. With the exception of FIFA 13, which I play mostly single player. I've been playing with Rowsdower a little bit online. And that's one thing I'd like to point out. He and I got it for the PC, and let me tell you, not having to deal with the lag problems we've had historically on the 360 is a godsend. But I am in a similar position. The last single-player only game I played, I believe, was Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, which we did a review about. And that game, if I hadn't been following it so closely by following Kurt Schilling's now beyond bankrupt 38 Studios, I think he basically bankrupted the state of Rhode Island single-handedly. But yeah, I have the same feeling, and it's. I'll put it this way: the most fun I get from video games is when I play basically with Woodsie and Rowsdower, and it's usually MMOs, mainly FPSs. And then multiplayer games when I'm just playing by myself are next, and then single player usually below that. And a lot of that is because single player stories and campaigns, generally it's hard to hold my interest. Skyrim, I think I put in 35 hours in that game, and bored out of my mind. The story was all right. Combat was lame to me after a while, even with mods that were supposed to make it more fun. But yeah, right now, single player, it's tough for me. I mean, the games I have, in my huge Steam library, it's tough for me to sit like the Splinter Cells. I wanted to go back and beat all of them all the way through and then play Conviction. Right. I got it during the Steam Summer Sale. I haven't played Conviction yet. It's just hard to get into it. Hard to get into a singular experience like that. And, granted, a big part of it is because, again, PlanetSide 2 is so fucking wonderful. And I also have Guild Wars 2, which is also wonderful. It's hard to get into single player, and I've said to you guys before, it's a first world problem. I have so many great games I'm playing right now. I don't have time for all of them.
Right.
So yeah, I'm in that stage too, but I don't. But whereas before, when I've been in this stage, I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just I know it's cyclical. I don't know when I'll get into it again. It would take an extraordinary game to pull me back.
Well, what does it tell you that the most recent single player PC game that I've really spent time on was Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
That was 1993, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I bought it on Steam, and I've been playing it off and on. I mean, it's tough to get over the hardware gap. It really is, but I mean, God, just playing that game, the nostalgia it gives me is incredible. But I think you guys are both absolutely right. I would fall into the same category, and I would have to say it's completely due to the consolation phenomena, and the consoles not being able to keep up with PC platforms in terms of how deep of an experience they can provide. So we kept getting the ports that were, I would have to say, cookie cutter. Oh, I just got a text message. Your cookie cutter reskinned multiplayer experience, and I think just take a Bad Company 2 for example.
Since we're talking about this is off the heels of Star Citizen and their promise to have an in-depth single player. If it's kind of cut and paste like an old flight sim, space sim, but in space, but new graphics and everything. Is that enough for it to hold interest in the single player realm? Or will there have to be, right off the bat, will you have to have in-depth characters? Will there have to be like a main character you just get on board with? I'd also like to bring up, real quick, that in the past, they had full motion video along with the games often. And that to me helped immersion. At some point along the way, everyone decided, it takes players out of the game when they jump from full motion to the game graphics because the graphics don't look anywhere near close to the full motion. Mm-hmm. I completely disagree. But we're not going to make that leap back anytime soon. So, is that a factor as well? Because seeing Mark Hamill on the screen, playing Command and Conquer with all the full motion characters, I don't know, make it feel more real. It's hard to say what will get me back in that first player mode, that single player mode. But having a guy who says, the guy who's making Star Citizen, Chris Roberts, this is a PC game, even in the trailer. This is not a console game. This is not a tablet game. A PC game.
I think that I just want to jump in real quick with other single player games I've been playing. The problem it's been for me is, whereas let's say there are many components that go into what makes a great single player game, or any game really, but two that jump out to me are story and action. If it's some kind of action game, be it FPS or action RPG, whatever. And I've always felt there's been a deficit. So, for example, I played Sniper Elite V2 a lot, single player and multiplayer. The single player, I loved the combat very much, but the story I thought was just weak as hell.
Right.
I played Darksiders. Both felt mediocre to me. I've been playing Wings of Prey. I've been trying to get into... And I'm excited for Star Citizen because I'm starting to really, bust out the old joystick and dust it off and really getting into flight games. Like Wings of Prey, for example, the combat's fun, but there's no story. Even a multiplayer game like Terra, love the combat system, the story's really weak. And I feel like for me, a single-player game, multiplayer can get away with it because it doesn't really have to have a story unless it's an MMORPG.
Right.
Then you have your own story. or Guild Wars 2, where you're kind of playing this global story. But a single player would have to have great combat and a great story. That's where I was so disappointed with Skyrim. I felt like the story was really going somewhere in terms of how I can just explore the world and the characters and the NPCs, particularly in the lore. But I feel like it has to have those components, and games keep coming out that promise this game, your decisions actually have real consequences. We've heard it so many times, and even on this channel I've said, we've heard it so many times, but this game may actually do it. And we just keep getting disappointed. And for me, I think it kind of, it numbs you a little bit, but also makes you a little bit cynical and hesitant to try new single-player games. And I'm sure that many people are going to comment and say, oh, well, you have to try this one, you have to try that one. And dear God, do not say you have to try Mass Effect 3. But I feel like it makes us hesitant to try games, and I don't feel like it's a funk to me right now. I feel like I'm in this stage until a great game comes out, but I don't know if that great game will pull me back into playing single players. I think it'll only pull me back into playing that game.
I see.
I don't think it'll restore my faith.
I would like to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know if it'll take a lot to restore my faith in single player experience, not just a great game. Like Crysis, for example, is enough to restore my faith in anything. But they're not making Crysis 1 again, are they?
No, they're not.
No. Go ahead, Rowsdower.
Couple of points I wanted to make, Woodsie, to go back to your question about is it going to be enough. Chris Roberts, we've seen what he likes to do in the past, and even in the trailer that he put up, or the video that he posted, he does the same kind of thing even in the trailer, where he involves live action scenes into the computer animated world. So he even does it in his trailer. That's how big of a fan he is of this. So as to whether or not we're going to see that, I don't think we're going to see Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell make a return to the video game screen. But I don't even know if Star Citizen has room for that type of incorporation. And just listening to Chris Roberts talk about what he wants to do in terms of the single player and the multiplayer. But what I really want to see from his single player element is he doesn't have to really do anything innovative. Just do what you've done before with the Wing Commander series, and do what LucasArts was able to do with their X-Wing Alliance. Just give me a story that was like reading a good novel. That's what those single player experiences have always been about to me. It's like when I'm reading that book and I cannot put it down. I have to read it, and I spend, I blow through a book in 3 days. That's what a good single player campaign should be like to me. And another point I wanted to make is the trend in single player games over the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 years has really moved towards giving the player an open-ended experience where there are several paths you can go down based upon the decisions you make throughout the game. And I'm starting to have some real reservations and doubts in terms of how deep of an experience that can provide. I know it's really fun to be able to have the decision whether or not you want to kill someone or to change the way you want to interrogate someone, but I'm trying to think back on the greatest single player experiences I've ever had, and none of the games that I really loved or I put up on that upper tier or that upper echelon didn't have that element to it. It was a story that they were telling me, and I was moved along the path, and the way that the developers moved you along and immersed you into that story is what made the game so great. Not having an open-ended experience, to me, that's more of a niche element that they've been able to do.
You make a great point with the X-Wing Alliance. X-Wing Alliance, the storyline was completely told through your mission briefings and emails. I don't think you ever saw another character's face. You had a sister and an uncle, and different characters running around, and they only just emailed you, and you heard their voice, and you got a great story out of it. And they didn't have to show you anything. Just here's an email from your sister, and it was well acted, voice acted, and that was it.
Well, yeah, I think you make a great point, Rowsdower, about fundamentally, is a single-player experience what I want to make of it, or is it something that has been crafted and it's up to me whether or not I like it? I completely agree that recently there's been that trend, and it's understandable. People want to feel that level of control. They want to know that, give me the tools for a great experience, and I will decide how I want the story to play out. Whereas you had people who were sought after for their ability to write a compelling story, and that's what 38 Studios tried to do with Kingdoms of Amalur. They brought in heavy-hitting writers from the industry. The storyline in that game ended up kind of being rather flat. The lore was interesting, but anyway, I feel I was going to say it kind of felt, the reveal kind of felt like the loom of fate in Wanted. It was as disappointing as that. But
that was not disappointing.
It's literally a loom that weaves your fate. Yeah, on a string. Sorry to spoil it for you. No, but I think that it used to be a come along for the ride. We have a great story in store, and if you happen to not like that story, okay, fine. But at least they put in time to develop one story that was masterfully crafted, as opposed to let's put in as many open-ended mechanics as possible, try and reduce the restrictions so that people can truly decide for themselves. But I wonder, if you try and program a game for near infinite possibilities, do you dilute the significance or how powerful any of those possibilities is?
I think you do.
I wonder if you lose that element of, you know what, am I happy because this was a great story, or am I happy because I made the story? They're not mutually exclusive, but I also think that they can be at odds with each other.
So the question becomes is, do you want to be able to go into the game and play 15 mediocre stories, or just have one really great story?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of gamers these days would instinctively say, no, I want to make my own story, but are we, as kind of Rowsdower was alluding to, have we been conditioned to think that is what a single-player game is and should be?
Right. It's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like a good single-player game should be like me experiencing the author's story, and System Shock is a phenomenal example of that. System Shock 2. I mean, just coming over and watching Woodsie play that game, I was completely content not playing the game. I wanted to just watch him play it because the story was that good, and it was that fun to do.
That's how I felt about the first Metal Gear Solid game. I would play it, my cousin would watch me, he would play it, I would watch him. And as Splinter Cell would have been the predecessor to it, because Metal Gear Solid said, no, we only care about making a game for Japanese people, apparently. I feel like the Splinter Cell series was fun. It had some open-endedness, much more so later on, which inevitably led to it being a worse game. But I felt like I'm playing a great story, and it's the only open-endedness is, can you succeed? Not, oh, if you do this, then this happens. If you fail slightly, then these are the consequences. It's just, no, you have to stop the bad guys. Right. Go do it. And then we have put in curveballs and a storyline that will throw you off, and let's see if you can still do it.
Right.
And as we're talking about it, it makes me much more nostalgic for that experience, because it felt like I was playing a spy novel.
Right. It's a good point.
I think that what they should do is take all of the StarCraft books and make them into a huge magnum opus with several mini-stories. Because those are awesome, most of them.
Well, as always, we always turn it over to the community and ask them the question. It kind of turned into this question of, is the trend of open-ended gaming really a good thing for storytelling?
And is it time for us to swing back to a story-driven
Right, exactly. Model? So please...
God. Yes.
We know what Rowsdower thinks.
And we all know that...
I think that Star Citizen is going to be a huge success, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just so we can have the Star Citizen movie starring Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard.
Oh my god. So it'll be a teen romantic comedy drama-ish from the 90s? Is Sarah Michelle Gellar going to be in it too?
Yes, she's the alien queen.
My god.
Okay. As always, I'm Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd.
And thanking Rowsdower. Rowsdower, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. I've been kind of wanting to do this with you for a little while, so.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome. And remember, make all checks payable to Shepherd only, not Shepherd and Woodsie.
But that's not your real name.
Shit. ThePCelitist, and we're signing out.